Hello, everyone. It's Monday and it's another beautiful day here in Sacramento. I'm thinking of everyone in our St. Mark's family and hope that we're all finding the ways to not only survive but to thrive in this very odd situation that we are in. I wanted to let you know about, a couple of things that are going on. One is I had a call last week from Rabbi Reuven Taff of the Mosaic Law Synagogue asking whether we would like to partner with them in a sort of teach-in, a seminar that'll last an hour and a half. It's going to be a week from Thursday, that is May the 7th at 6:30 on Zoom. And Rabbi Taff and I will co-host it, and we will have three experts on the COVID-19 situation leading us. One is Dr. Peter Bielenson, who is the head of Sacramento County's Department of Health Services. Another is Stuart Cohen, Dr. Stuart Cohen, who is a medical researcher at UC Davis in this whole area, so an expert on this kind of virus. And the third is our very own Dr. Neil Kohatsu. Neil has a wide range of experience, often related to health policy. He has been in leadership and is a distinguished medical professional in our community. So the three of them will be a little panel, and they will be sharing with us. And then there will be a time for questions and answers from both the Mosaic Law congregation and from our congregation. So if you're interested in being part of this Zoom gathering, I will be circulating probably next Monday the Zoom link for this event. So you simply look for the email that comes from me and click on the Zoom link that I'll have highlighted in blue, and that should take you straight to the Zoom page where all this is happening. Your voices will be muted until somebody unmutes you if you ask a question. So you will be an observer. So I'm really excited about this and delighted that Rabbi Taff chose to extend the invitation to our community. I wanted to mention too, Kath Brown has been working very diligently on the phone calling that's going on around the congregation. And we have been pulling together a couple of prayer groups of people who want to gather, not for a long period of time, but maybe once a week for half an hour or so, to share concerns and to take some time for prayer together. So do please let Kath know if this is something you would be interested in sharing in. Again, her email address, like all of our staff emails at St. Mark's, first initial, last name, C. Brown at stmarksumc.com, stmarksumc.com. I also wanted to mention about the Zoom coffee hour. I've done this for the last two Sundays, and it's been really great. It's been a terrific opportunity for people to check in with each other and see familiar faces and see some unfamiliar faces and learn about people that they see at church but have never had the opportunity to get to know. I'm sort of revamping it for this third week. The two coffee hours are at 10 o'clock and at 11:30. That's a change from what we did the last 2 weeks. 10 o'clock and 11:30. And if you're interested in being a part of the Zoom coffee hour, again, please let Kath Brown know. C. Brown at stmarksumc.com. So that will be a wonderful opportunity. And people, you can choose whether you come at 10 o'clock or 11:30. I'm a little concerned that there may be too many people, and if so, then we'll start another one. It'll probably be an afternoon tea so that I'm not doing 3 coffee hours back to back. So I'm excited about that. We continue during this season of, the word that keeps coming to mind for me is incarceration. It feels as though we're confined to home, and it's it's difficult. And for most of us, we're used to having more freedom, being out and about, and sharing with each other in many different ways. And it feels as though we're being stifled somehow. And I know that many of you are really struggling with this. But our theme is hope, and there's always hope. And that made me think of a psalm that says, this is Psalm 130, I cry out to you from the depths, O Lord. My Lord, listen to my voice. Let your ears pay close attention to my requests for mercy. If you keep track of my sins, O Lord, my Lord, would I stand a chance? But forgiveness is with you, and that's why you are honored. I hope, Lord. My whole being hopes, and I wait for your promise. My whole being waits for you. Wait for the Lord, because faithful love is with the Lord, because great redemption is with our God. God is the one who will redeem. So in the midst of turmoil, this ancient writer from thousands of years ago was daring to trust and have hope in God that things were going to be different. You know, this made me think about a time many years ago when I was working as a volunteer in Uganda, and I remember a friend of mine who was a missionary nurse, and she was working mainly with children who were malnourished with a terrible condition called kwashiorkor. So kids who were just not getting enough nourishment and would often die from this disease. So every day in her clinic, she was dealing with mothers and babies and children, and often the babies and the children died while they were in her care, no matter how much she tried to save them. And she was feeling very stressed out by the whole situation, so she chose to go home to England for a little break. And she arrived home and discovered that the members of her family weren't speaking to each other because they'd had an argument about what color of curtains they were going to be hanging in their kitchen. And she really struggled with what to do and how to respond to her family. And it's a reminder to me that many of us are struggling with things that we feel are not very significant when we compare ourselves with the first responders, with the medical professionals who are dealing with the COVID patients, when we think of the risk that many other service employees, especially in the food industry and the supermarkets and so on, a lot of people are really risking a lot for the rest of us. And our role for most of us is simply to stay home so that the healing can happen. So when we get cabin fever, or when we get really frustrated hearing all the bad news on the TV and we don't know how to turn the TV off and all of that, it's a reminder to me that suffering is a very strange business, because it doesn't matter what the suffering is, at what level the suffering is, whether it's babies dying or whether it's frustration with feeling imprisoned in home. The feelings can be very similar, even though to an objective eye they look like very different situations. So as I relate to people in the congregation and hear about a variety of struggles, and there are really life and death struggles for some people, there are certainly emotional issues and psychiatric issues for some of our members, the really tough life existential issues. And at the other end, there are people who are just unhappy and have had enough of being at home all the time. And the suffering may look very different from the outside, but it can feel very similar from the inside. So that made me think of a famous saint of the church. I've already mentioned her, Julian of Norwich, because she was 6 years old when the plague called the Black Death hit her hometown of Norwich in England, and half the population of the city were killed by the plague. And yet Julian of Norwich is known, her most famous saying is, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." That's a great mantra for us to repeat over and over again for ourselves. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. When she was 30 years old, she got seriously ill, and she was given the last rites. Actually, they thought she was dying. But as she recovered, she wrote these words: "God is our clothing that wraps, clasps, and encloses us so as to never leave us." God is our clothing that wraps, clasps, and encloses us so as to never leave us. May God be your clothing. May God wrap around you. May God clasp you and enclose you. And certainly may God never leave you. Amen. May this be a week of healing, of thriving, of finding new directions, even in the midst of the darkness. Amen.